nothing.
Share nothing.
We ain't sharing no championship with nobody. We
Gonna
are
celebrate a little
outright.
Big Ten championship with some Dom.
How
Big Ten
about Dusty?
champs. Ain't sharing anything.
That's right. How about Dusty comes in year one, he wins the tournament championship, has a great competitive season. Year two, regular season championship, has us in a great position. So we are in a great situation. Going to hang a banner, going to get a ring.
Getting rings.
What do you think about where we're at with that basketball team?
I mean, that's what a turnaround. I mean, you think about the last year of Jawan was just a disaster. You know, all kinds of things going wrong. And new coach comes in, he brings in a couple of transfer guys, puts in a system, comes out and has them competing, you know, like they're a well coached team. And they look good and they win some big games. And then they gel throughout the year, and lo and behold, go in and win the Big Ten tournament in year one.
Yeah.
And then in year two, brings in these guys, and they just, all Dusty talks about constantly is how much this team likes each other, how much they fight for each other, how much they appreciate the other guy, respect the other guy. They do things as a team. They work together as a team. Nobody's jealous of one guy because he's making this much money or that much playing time or anything. They are all singularly focused. And in year two, they win the Big Ten championship. It's
Yeah,
a
that's
remarkable turnaround.
Dude, that's doing your homework on who you bring in. You know, I listen to this guy Trent Dilfer rip on his players at UAB. Oh, you know, I had a bunch of left. Well, that's your fault. You brought him in.
Yep.
And then I hear the guy at USC threw some guy off the team. You know, he's a whatever. You know, that's your fault. You didn't do your homework. You got to do your homework on these guys. How are they in the locker room? Talk to their high school coaches, their high school teachers. You know, but anyway, so we had a share, and then we had Minnesota come in, and Minnesota is a real good coach. They came in. This is a Big Ten basketball team. They gave us a game for a while. They got a good coach, and we found a way to win at home. And then we go to Illinois. Illinois was a team that scared me, but you know like I said, I like to bet, and I didn't do the math how well we would defend them. How he's got all these shooters. He's got skilled guys. He'll put 5 guys on the floor that can shoot a 3, but they couldn't really create. They couldn't do. You know, we got guys that can move their feet, and the type of athletes Dusty brought in defensively in our scheme defensively. I think he's got. I can't think of the assistant coach runs. He's his defensive quarterback. We had a brilliant defensive game plan against Illinois. And it was a great win, and you know they got all those shooters, but they couldn't create. And they ran a bunch of zone against us. I don't even remember. I said last week, what the hell team was it? Was it
Minnesota?
Was it Minnesota that ran the zone the whole time? Right?
Yeah. Well, they had to. They had 5 guys and 1 sub.
But anyway, remember I said the benefit of that game is going to pay off somewhere.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
because
there you go.
they ran a bunch of zone. And because they didn't have no other options, but Illinois ran a bunch of zone, and it helped us. Our guys people are going to, if people can't match up with us, they're going to try to do that. But again, it helps you to see it. But we're in a great place. And then obviously we lose Kason. That hurts.
Huge.
But you know, we got to adjust. We got 3 guards that can play. Go ahead, do.
You think about those games earlier, Gonzaga and some of the other games that Michigan came out and just railroaded them, right? Winning by 40 points and whatnot. And those were all super impressive wins. But, you know, I always kind of hedge a little bit because it's a whole new squad for Dusty and he's doing some different things and they don't have a lot of scouting film on them, you know, and clearly those teams were overwhelmed by the athleticism and the scheme. This win in Illinois is as big. This is the biggest win that Dusty's had. We had lost, going back to the last season of Jawan, we had lost 9 straight to Illinois. They absolutely had our number. They dominated us. And I think 1 game went into double overtime, but the rest of them, those were just flat out losses. And in my mind, I thought, well, this team's been through a lot. They've already clinched at least a share of the Big Ten title. Yeah, they wanted to go into Illinois and win it all, but man, that's a tough team. They got the most efficient offense in Ken Pom history. But there's a couple of things that we didn't maybe think about, even though we were playing at home. That kid, Vogler, is a freshman, right? And he's a great player. He's really super talented. But physically, he got put in a phone booth. They were physical with him. That guy hit the deck a lot. Yeah, he was the leading scorer in the game, but holy smokes, he paid it. I'm sure he felt it the next day. And just everybody on the team contributing. You got Morez Johnson. What a feeling. I just cannot say enough good things about that. To go in an environment that was super hostile and holding up signs that he's a clown and a traitor and talking about him before the game started. Those first 2 free throws, that place was blown up with their fans just going nuts, and he canned them both. That was amazing. And then he came out and he played like his hair was on fire, led the team with some super play, but really just I think that they fed off of him coming back to that building and having a big game. So Mara has a big game. Cadeau does well. Lendeborg does really well. He's fierce. He's a fierce competitor, man. And Dusty talked about it in his post-game presser that, sometimes we would switch, right? We do switch. Sometimes we would switch 1 through 3 or 1 through. We might switch 1 through 5, and Lendeborg can handle all 5 of them. Yeah. But there was a couple of those where Lendeborg waved off. He says, "No, I've got this guy," right? And Dusty commented on that. Hey, sometimes he goes off script, and that's fine. We have a chat about it. We trust him. But all of that energy that they brought in that crowd, in that environment, that was a hell of a win. And to win a Big Ten championship there against a team that had been kicking our butts for the last 6 seasons, what a feeling, man. What a great game.
Yeah, Underwood is not easy. It's not easy to outcoach Underwood. He has. I respect the hell out of him. He's outcoached us in the past. And my last comment about the basketball team: we go to Iowa. So now I'm putting my coaching hat on. We're outright champs. We've got the Big Ten tournament starting next week. We got the Spartans on Sunday. But you gotta, that's, you gotta find a way to just say, okay, man, we're just still fighting. We're competitors. We're Michigan. Yeah. We want to keep winning. And it doesn't mean nothing that, our guys are going to do that. But it's just something that, you have to think about again. What's the mindset of these are 20-year-old kids. I already got the ring. I already got the banner. But, Dusty will say the right things and our mind will be right. And going to Iowa State, they got a good coach. They got a new first-year coach, and anything can happen there. But I'm feeling great about it. And get the mind right, and let's go to Iowa Thursday night, tomorrow night, and take care of business.
Well, he addressed that too, and you talked about, Iowa. It's going to be tough going to Iowa, playing on a Thursday, like you said. You just had a huge emotionally charged game. You won the Big Ten title. You got the ring. How do you get them refocused? And Dusty was like, I really don't have to do too much to get this crowd going or to get this team going. And this could possibly be the first Big Ten team to go undefeated on the road in about 50 years.
Bobby Knight, 76.
Yep. So that he mentioned that, and he says, I don't know, maybe some guys use that as motivation. I don't know. They're just competitors, so I don't have to really push them to compete. They want to go out there and win. They want to beat everybody they play. And then, of course, Sunday we got just a huge rivalry game. It's at home. It's senior night. Get to honor a couple of guys, Cheddar and Namari Burnett, I think. Yeah. And there's others, I'm sure.
Probably Yaks, Yaks.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about the guys that have been with us for a while, but yeah. And then he talked about the tournament, and he said he talked to a mentor of his that said, Bobby Knight didn't care about the Big Ten title, the tournament.
I know he did.
He didn't want to devote too many resources to that, but that's just not this team's identity. They're not going to just go in there and work on some things for a team that they might play, down the line. they're going to go in there compete. They don't want to lose a game to anybody. So it's a grind because you think you got this tomorrow night, you got Sunday night in two big games, and then you got to start that single game elimination for the Big Ten tournament, and then the big dance starts. But man, I'd take these guys against the field.
Yeah. So anyway, we got to adjust without Case on, but the team is in good shape. Dude, you talked about Dusty. It's like a great transition into the guy I'm going to talk about because I used to quote him on some. I'm going to share the quote. You just talked about Dusty not needing to say much, that they're self-motivated. There was somebody asked Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz passed today. The great Lou Holtz, great coach, a guy I respect. A guy I played against. We played against at Minnesota. You played against him against Minnesota and Notre Dame. But somebody asked him one time, Coach, man, what do you say to these guys at halftime? They came out. They were a different team. He said, it's not. He said, I'm going to tell you, it's real easy. I recruit self-motivated guys. It's not the speech you give. So that was a great. I used to always share that with my players too. That hey man, just be it's about being self. Don't hope for me. Don't wait for me, the coach, to come there and get you ready to play on Friday night, Saturday night, whatever it is that's going on. So recruit self-motivated guys was a great Lou Holtz line. But we went against them. I went against them in '84, and I'm going to share a quick story. They were running a lot of option. This was when very few teams were running option.
Right.
People were getting away from it. But 1984, he comes over there to Minnesota, turns them around right away, and they're running option. And one of the problems with option is if you want to run a bunch of different stuff, and we did a lot of different things, you were going to slant this way, we're going to slant that way, we're going to exit and all this stuff. But guess what the problem is? If they run an option, okay, who do you got on dive? Who has the dive? Who has the quarterback? Who has the pitch? And a lot of times for me in our position, it would change based on the release of the tight end. If he blocked down, you got this guy. If he took an outside release, you got that guy. But I just remember in a big game against them, we had a defense called. If it's a run, I play run. If it's a pass, I had to drop and in coverage. But they ran the option and the tight end took an inside release, and I took the dive instead of the quarterback. Ricky Fogey went like 40 yards. But the moral of the story is Holtz stayed with option. He knew it gave defenses trouble. And it was an instant turnaround when he got to Minnesota. I saw it there. And then you can share 1986. I was already gone. But anyway, I heard Holtz speak at a clinic one time, and I just respected the guy because everywhere he's ever been, he won. He made his assistant coaches better. He worked under Woody Hayes at Ohio State. Yeah. And I just respect guys that do it the right way for the most part. And he competed right away against Michigan year one.
Right year. 1986, we were playing them down in South Bend. It was his first game. And we went down there, and we had a good team. We ended up winning the Big Ten that year, but it was a tough ball game. We did not make them punt that entire game. It was stark slap in the face because we figured it's the first year, and we are who we are. We got who we got. You got Jumbo Elliott and all these Harbaugh at quarterback, Jamie Morris, John Colasar. You got Mesner on defense. Hammerstein's over there, I think. On paper, we were going to beat these guys, and man, it was a dogfight. They ended up missing a field goal towards the end of the game, and we got out of there with the win. But I remember one quote from a player that said that they practiced so hard that the game was actually easy because the competition wasn't nearly as hard as how bad practice was, how tough it was. They're going against really good players. They recruited some studs. They had some really good teams. They ended up winning the national championship a couple of years later. But they said, yeah, practice was our game. Actually, Saturday was, a chance to take a breath and have some fun.
So basically the same mindset as Michigan, man.
He was
iron sharpens iron. You go against these guys, I'm going against Jumbo Elliott and Bubba Paris, and then I get some lamb chop from, wherever. It's like, this is a different deal, man. But
Yeah.
anyway,
No.
Lou Holtz, I respected him. All that guy ever did was win. And so,
Yeah, that's a big law. I mean, these are iconic guys that were just, a national championship winning coach for a long time, was on TV for a long time, most recently calling out Ryan Day, which made Ryan Day look like an ass.
Yeah.
But you hate to lose people. It's part of life, but man, yeah, that sucks. Rest in peace to Lou Holtz.
Anyway, this is the agenda. We're bouncing around a little bit. We covered. We're going to cover some hoops. We already did that. We're going to look at the edge room real closely. The players there. We're going to talk about Coach Powell, some recruiting, things that are going on in recruiting, and then we're going to look at some Utah on offense. Beck going against Hill. That's still the best game for us to see.
Yeah, 100%.
Spring recruiting is really big. It's a lot bigger than this is a real crucial time of year. A lot of things are happening with spring recruiting.
Yeah.
I see in all the big names, you'll see some big time recruits, and you'll see UCLA's name on there now, dude, where I wasn't seeing them on some of these top recruits. So that tells me that the players are meeting that staff. And there's some enthusiasm. There's some hope. I don't know that they're talking money right away, but I'm seeing UCLA's name in with a lot of these big time recruits early on. First year coach was successful at James Madison. Anyway, that's of note. A lot of recruits are going to start coming to Ann Arbor this time of year, and then you're going to talk about the new hire who's been around. I think she graduated from Texas. She's been in recruiting, and she has the magic touch of being a factor in recruiting. Why don't you talk about her?
Yeah, well, so we talked about Dave Peliquin a couple weeks ago and his unique experience that on both sides of the table when it comes to NIL. This is one of the guys that was the architect of what we would call NIL right now, and how to succeed in that. Well, today they announced that Skyler Phan, who was a recruiting coordinator for USC this past year, and if you remember, USC finished #1 in recruiting, and this woman has gotten a lot of credit for really doing a great job with hosting official visits, unofficial visits, coordinating with families, families, and the players, their coaches, and putting on just a tremendous display when these kids come to visit campus, right? And in the recruiting circles, which I am the furthest thing from that, but in the recruiting circles, the news of this hire today really rippled. This wasn't a home run. This was a grand slam hire, according to those people in the recruiting know. And she's 20, early 20s. She started at, I think, North Texas, and then went to Houston, spent a little time there with the Las Vegas Raiders, and then she went to USC and knocked it out of the park. And again, the proof was in the pudding, and she was part of the #1 class last year. This hire,
I think she's got some Texas, so she's, it's
Yeah.
going to help. We bring
Texas
kids up
grad,
from
yeah.
Texas. All those little things matter when somebody comes on a recruiting trip with their parents. She's got Texas roots. So kids from Texas. Oh yeah, all those conversations matter. She's got some Southern California. Make people feel comfortable. They come up. You got to build that relationship, and it isn't just the head coach. It's the whole. You hit them with everything, man. The equipment manager, the trainer, the strength coach. Everybody's part of that recruiting push, man.
And that's all. And this is what her job's going to be. When you get these guys on official visits, you have 48 hours to impress them, right?
Yeah. And
you need to have an itinerary that makes sense, that's enjoyable, but it also is mind-blowing. It's just out of this world good. you want these guys talking about how good it was, and that's what her responsibility is going to be, is putting on a great show. And again, from all accounts, she's the best at it. So that's a hell of a win for Michigan and for Whittingham.
So spring football starts in 13 days. We were there. They're counting them down. They're getting their body as strong as they can. And from what we're hearing, they're running them. They're lifting them. So, but they're allowed to work with players and do things. Coaches are allowed to work with these guys a little bit. And what I anticipate, what I see with our program is players are going to be tested. To beat Michigan and to play for Michigan, you're going to have to be physically tough and you got to be mentally smart. From what I'm seeing is we do a ton of stuff on offense to mess with your mind more than we did with Jim. This guy believes in a lot of stuff. Yeah. So what the upside of that is what I like about that, if I was the defensive coordinator, is I have to see that every day in practice, all these formations and the shifting and the motions and the 6 offensive, all that BS, I have to constantly adjust and adapt and think. I have to think as a coach, but my players have to prove that they're smart. So the coaches are, you play for Michigan now, you got to be tough and all that and fast and all that, but you got to be able to make all the adjustments. I see that. I see both sides of the ball for Michigan helping each other big time, but I think the coaches are going to be really looking for guys that don't make mental mistakes because of all the things we run, and they're implementing these things now. If I'm listening to Harding, I'll get into some thoughts on Harding, but that's just some thoughts that I'm feeling about as we move into spring ball.
Yeah. So in spring ball, man, everybody on the team is fired up for spring ball because you get it's a new opportunity. Maybe you weren't on the depth chart last year. Now's your opportunity. The guy that you were behind or 2 behind is gone, and I really enjoyed spring ball. Even as a walk-on, I played a little bit, traveled a little bit. It was still an opportunity to prove yourself and get better and catch the coach's eye. And that's what these guys are out there doing, is trying to catch the coach's eye. They've seen him in the weight room for the last few weeks, and now they're going to get a chance to see what happens when you put the pads on. And you were talking about all those motions and shifts and formations and everything like that, and coaches do that on offense to get the defense to think. Because if you're thinking, you're not reacting, you're slow. And so there's a lot to be taught. And we're going to talk about the edge room. And I think if you go back and watch, I did all of those Sunday morning reviews, the low-hanging fruit review on Sunday mornings on Twitter. And there's one thing that I kept seeing the edges make some mental errors, and it was a repetitive theme throughout the year. And we played a bunch of guys, right? And probably more than we should have. But those mental lapses or that lack of technique created holes. And I just don't see that happening with this defense and Whittingham coach teams. And as a matter of fact, when we put on the film, you're going to watch the edge guy and watch what happens if there's a play where the tight end or the tackle blocks down. You watch what that edge man does. He squeezes that gap, right? Because if you come upfield and the guy blocked down, now there's this huge seam, right? So you watch on film how those guys squeeze that gap down and build a wall. And I'm looking forward to watching that happen over spring ball. And I think these guys, when we get to this edge room guys, I think those guys will get it.
Yeah, well, you know what? Let me get my where we're at. Let's get into this edge room here. Are you seeing it, Dew?
Yep, there it is.
Okay, so these are the young guys. We're just coming in. Mikhail Blade, Tariq Boney, Carter Meadows. So those guys are young guys. They'll figure out where they're not going to be much of a factor, I don't think. But Holly and Marshall are guys those guys are now ready to really take a step. They've been in the weight room. They've been eating good training table food for a year. They're going to be bigger, stronger. They're ready to compete physically. A new system, couple different, learning different techniques. But these two guys are, and then Lugard,
Lugard, Edipaye.
Okay, those three guys are the three question marks that the coaches, because I know what Nichols is going to bring. I'm really, really confident with Nichols and Brandt. I think those two guys, they could be Hutch, they could be those type of physical, they can be dominant football players. They can have great years. Dominic Nichols had to compete and couldn't play as early as other guys because there was good competition there the last 2 or 3 years at that position. Josiah Stewart, Moore, Dominic Nichols could have the same kind of year as Moore did. You know what I mean? He could be that kind of player, and so could Brandt. They're capable of having great, dude, you and I I remember just people thinking, oh, well, this dude's graduating. What's going to happen? Well, you know what, man? This is Michigan. There's another guy there ready to roll too, man. Yeah. So I'm really confident that Brandt and Nichols are going to be as good as any edge players in the Big Ten. And then will John Henry Daly be ready to go? We don't know.
Right.
We know how good a player he is. That gives us 3 proven players. But the big question mark is, what about these 3 guys? All have the size, athletic ability, and toughness that we've seen. And which of those guys are going to rise to the top quickly in spring? Can we predict it? I don't know. But Holly he's a 4-star kid. He's a 230-pound kid, and but I think there's enough good talent there that we'll be able to have the kind of edge play. The demands, the more and more of this of the BYU film I'm watching and Utah film, they have different demands than what we ran in our structure and what the McDonald, Minter, Wink did. It's a little different. I don't see our edge players dropping nearly as much in coverage as what they did. Right. They didn't drop a ton. Big Derek Moore didn't drop a lot. Josiah Stewart dropped a little bit, but they did drop in coverage.
We dropped a fair bit, man.
Yeah, I know. They did drop, enough that the offense wouldn't know who's coming or who's dropping. That was all by design. It was all about deception. But I see when I'm looking at this package and the scheme, I see a whole lot less dropping in coverage for the edge players. What are your thoughts on the edge group?
No, I think you're right. I think first and foremost is stop the run. That's going to be the primary focus of the defense. And when it comes to run stopping, I think that list of guys right there that you talked about, Cam Brandt, Lugard, Nichols, and Nate Marshall, right? I think those guys are going to be fun. John Henry Daly, hopefully he plays. But even if he can't go right away, that guy knows the system, and he's going to be a great, another voice to help these guys out. Sometimes another player, it's why seniors are so important. They showing the young guys how to do it. Well, John Henry Daly can do that. So when it comes to run defense, I'm really optimistic about this team. 1, they're talented. 2, the coaches, just what I talked about, closing the gap, those techniques, those small little things that cut off seams that running backs can find. So in that regard, I'm fine. What I'm a little bit maybe questionable about, or just we don't know, is do we got a guy that can rush and get 7, 8, 10 sacks this year, right? Cam Brandt is not, your prototypical sack rushing edge, right? I think Dom Nichols and Nate Marshall have it in them, but I think that the secret here is that 5-star freshman Carter Meadows. That guy's a stud, and we were fortunate that we got to to hold on to him through the coaching change. That guy could be the X factor, because I don't see in that other group there, I don't see a big, lengthy, quick, good hands, quick feet, get to the quarterback kind of guy. Meadows can be that guy. Now, he's a freshman, and I am skeptical about freshmen, no matter how talented you are. And you don't have to look any further than last year at the quarterback, the top-rated quarterback in the recruiting class. You see what happens at the end of the year, man. You hit that freshman wall, and things happen.
Yeah, dude.
Meadows,
I'm gonna make my prediction. Our first 4 edge players against Oklahoma, the rotating 4 are going to be Nichols. Brant will start the football game. I'm going to go Marshall, and I'm going to go Holly. That's just how I feel because I don't know that and Henry's ready. But I watched Holly a little bit, and I think they have a lot of high hopes for him, and that's just my gut. But they're going to be competing. All these dudes are going to be competing. Meadows looks good on paper, dude, but man, we were freshmen.
Right.
You ain't been in the weight room like these other guys. That extra year is huge.
It is, but I think about of Andrew Marshall on the other side of the ball. Marsh on the other side of the ball. Like his first attempt at catching a pass, he didn't even turn and look for it on a wheel route, and he was wide open. Because he's a freshman and your eyes are this big and your head's swirling around because you're for the first time in front of 100,000 people. And I see that happening with Meadows, but I also see him getting some reps, getting better, and by the end of the season being somebody that might surprise some people.
Yeah, the front seven's harder to play, man.
Ugh.
You got to get in there. There's so much more strength involved with it. Coach Harding, more I hear this guy talk, he wants to get his starting 5. He wants to come out of spring ball establishing that we're tough. I got to find out. He's got to find his starting 5. Who's tough and who's smart and who's going to block the right guy. I listened to him talk. He wants to know who's tough. You can't tell. He said, I can't tell in shorts. There's a lot of things I can't tell in shorts. I
everybody's an All-American in a helmet and T-shirt.
Yeah. So, one thing I liked, and I did this too as a coach. I did this in business too. Is he's already done it. He's asked his players to evaluate him on different things that he's already presented as a coach.
Really?
How am I teaching this? What do you guys think about how I'm going about? And that's just great, man.
Wow.
And I used to do it anonymously at the end of the season. I tell my players, don't put your name on it. If you think I'm the biggest jackass, dumb coach, I said, put it down. Just tell me why and be honest. But anyway, I like that he's doing that. That's how you learn as a coach. I'll
tell you what.
And that's what I saw on him that it was interesting.
You're talking about the edge guys just now.
Well, that was Coach Harding.
Right.
We'll talk about that for his offensive line.
Right. And I'm getting to that in the correlation here. That's a pretty good offensive line. There's a lot of returning starters there, a lot of experience, and a really, really good head coach. If you want to make your defensive edges better, go against a experienced, well-coached line.
Yeah.
So this coach and that offensive line is going to make these edge guys better players because they're going to be facing, for 15 practices, really, really good offensive linemen.
Yeah, so we talked about the edge players, but let's talk about the coach. He's been with Whit forever. Yeah. I think Whit may have coached him just at the end of his career. So they've been together for 20 years.
Yeah, Lewis Powell.
Yeah, Lewis Powell is a guy that was, he played over there at Utah. Whit, they know everything about it. So there is no feeling out process. There's no, how does this guy coach? There's none of that. They are up and running, and they know exactly. He don't need to go in that. He doesn't need to go in that meeting room to figure out, does this guy know what the hell he's doing? How's he teaching? He could think about other stuff. So he coached D-line for like 14 years. In the last 6 years, he's been coaching the edge guys, which is, a little different stuff. But he knows exactly how they run this system, and he's been around. So that's really all I got on him. But he knows what the hell. They're all on the same page, man.
They're all on the same page, and I was reading up on some of his previous work at Utah, and Utah's defense. Usually ranked up near the top, if not at the top, in tackles for loss and sacks. And I keep mentioning that Utah was kind of a niche program. I mean, you either have to, you want to go to a religious school, a Mormon school like Utah, or you want to live out in Utah. And that's not for everybody. Just like Michigan's not for everybody, or, Arizona might not be for everybody or something. And, but they took the players that they got and continued to be at the top of the defensive statistics in 3 different conferences, and they did really well in the Pac-12. Finished in the top for TFLs and sacks, I think 5 times, something like that. So that goes to show you that this guy knows how to coach, right? Because he's not pulling in 5 stars left and right and high 4 stars and Florida kids all over the place, or California or Texas kids. They got some, but not a lot. They had more Polynesian guys than anything else. And I like the Polynesian players because I played rugby for a while, right? You wanna find out how tough you are? Play rugby against a bunch of Polynesian dudes. They are fearless, man. They are fearless. Good dudes, good people. But man, just like when Jumbo Elliott stepped on that field, he could be your best friend 10 minutes ago. You're chatting and having a laugh, but when he put them foot on that grass, the switch went on, and he had no friends. And the Polynesians were like that.
I was in Kenya, in Africa, and I went to a rugby game.
That's amazing.
You talk about athletic, physical, nasty dudes that no one knows anything about. I actually told Harbaugh, I said, there's some. These guys were 6'2", 3",
huge.
Just they got no training or nothing, but they're just athletes, and they were beating the hell out of each other. You talk about anyway. That's my one little thought about rugby.
That's the Springboks. That's the name
right.
of it.
The Springboks.
Yep.
That's a deer.
Yeah.
That. I was in Kenya, dude. I saw a lion run down one of them little Springboks on a safari.
Is that right?
Oh, just run them right. You're 100 yards from us, man. Run them down.
That kills me that you were in Africa. That's cool.
Yeah, and they were chowing, man, just right in front of you, man. You go on a safari, you'll never go to a zoo again. It's like I ain't going to look at no damn
petting the lions.
Yeah, laying in his crap over there. Okay,
one
more quick comment about pressure and edges and guys that can beat a guy, but you still have to manufacture with scheme and stunts to get offensive linemen not knowing who's coming, who's rushing, and that was the whole premise the last 5 years. Is we put offensive linemen in conflict. Is Hutch coming? Is he dropping? Is the linebacker coming? Is the safety coming? And all those things can help. I was an average player, but we did a lot of different things. Sometimes you had the offensive lineman confused, so that's a big part of it. I want to get on some film. We always got to look at film. Me and you are nuts like that. We like looking at film.
While you're doing that, just to shout out to Tyler Lord Hunky and Terry in the chat. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate the comments. Tell your friends. Thanks for coming.
Okay, do they have any questions, or they're just admiring the wisdom?
They enjoy the company.
Okay, here we go. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, this is base defense, dude. This is our defense. We just got them talking about it, but these are outside edge players, and this looks like our defense.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what the linebackers are doing up so
we're looking at Beck over here. This is Beck running this offense.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're looking at Hill over Hill running this BYU defense. So this is a perfect game for us. This is one back. This is our base defense. And just taking a look. Hill did I'm watching his safeties really come up and run support.
That was a great. And if you watch the edge on the play side, this guy on the right here, watch how he just stuffs it right there. Right?
He knows his gap.
He knows he's got outside help.
That's right. He knows he has outside help.
Yep.
So he's punching with.
So everybody's got the gap to the left.
Yeah, he knows that this guy's coming right here. So
keep it paused right there.
Yeah.
So The right there, the guy's got that outside edge. You had the guy in the C gap, the B gap, the A gap. The linebackers ready to flow. That's sound defense.
Yeah, that was day one at Michigan for me as a freshman. Coach McCartney, defense. You got to know where your help is.
Yeah.
That was pounded. So here's Beck coming out, shifting right away, and looking at the BYU defense, and they adjust pretty good. Look how quick they adjust to empty, but he stays in the base set. We're with really no linebackers, but we're in a base front, 2 edge outside backers.
I wonder why they do that. So that back went out to the flat. Excuse me, he's out on the numbers, right? And the linebacker followed him. Why didn't the safety follow him? Well, there's why, because the safety had the guy releasing.
It's like you come up with your adjustments on based on maybe what the personnel is in the game for Utah.
Right, so there goes your linebacker all the way out to the number. So he's out of the play. He's no longer a threat.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's sound, what I'm looking for is a guy that's sound. He has his reasons, but it looks like everybody's covered. So that's what I like to see, is a guy that adjusts to formations and shifting, and
communication. Moeller used to talk about it all the time. Communication, man. You've got to talk. The front's got to know what the back's doing, and vice versa. Linebackers have to know the defensive line.
That's right.
If they're out of adjustment or anything, if their lineup is incorrect, they need to move shaded in or out. Good communication is always a key to a good defense.
Anyway, you and I have been beating this discussion up. These are 2 300-pounders.
Your two favorite players.
I'm really anxious to see spring ball, to see some big fellas with some 80 numbers on.
I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you there won't be any.
I think there's going to be one. There's going to be look, this is different too, dude. These are 2-1 techniques.
Yeah.
We have never run this. Wink did not believe in it. Neither did McDonald.
But that's actually a pretty smart play, because now those 3 guys in the middle, right, are responsible for those 2 in the 1 gap or in the A gap. That leaves your edges one-on-one.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just something different. It's something different that we did not believe in. Those guys had a 1 and a 3. There's 2 double, 2 A gap 1 techniques playing into the inside shoulder of the guard. Anyway, just I'm looking for alignments and some techniques and some different things. So here's empty, and it's so much deception. I keep seeing more and more deception out of Beck, pulling guards for no reason, just to deceive. Why do you make it look like you're running jet, and then you're running the wheel the opposite direction? Here's right. Jet motion, and they pull a guy the other way, and they run wheel, but it does. I see Hill. It doesn't fool them. They adjust. They defend the wheel. It's well defended.
Yeah, the linebacker had that wheel route sniffed out right away.
Those are signs of good coaches. You can shift, you can motion, you can false pull me, and I'm still going to have a guy. I'm still going to defend your stuff, because here's this guard pulling here for no reason. Just to deceive, try to get people running that way and throw the wheel the other way. We got about 8 plays we're going to look at, and then we'll wrap this thing up. But here's more empty, a lot of empty for Utah in this game. And look at all the movement on defense, dude. Let's take it from right here. I think there's a method to this madness. I don't think they're confused. I think what they're doing on defense is they know what they're going to do, but they're just deceiving and creating deception as to who's coming and who's dropping. I mean, look at all the guys. You know what I mean, dude?
Yeah, but if you watch just before this pause right here, watch all the communication. The 2 guys on the top right there, they're communicating. 2 guys on the left edge were communicating. Safeties and corners communicating.
Yeah, so they're slanting to the left. They're bringing a backer, and the quarterback finds a seam here. This is stuff we ran. But Bryce, anyway, I just like seeing smart adjusting defenses.
See, there's 17 chatting with the guy in front of him. Guy on the right, 16's chatting with his guy. They're running a blitz. Yeah. Somebody got out of their lane because that quarterback had a huge gap. More communication.
So again, here's a 3-3 look. You know, who are the edge players in the game? Does he have DTs? What's he got? I'm just seeing the quarterback look at something, put a guy in motion, and then change the play based on the look. So
I think you're right. I think that is a 3-3-5, and I'm wondering why they ran a 3-3-5. It must be the down and distance.
Yeah, but there's a 3-man front there, and BYU always seems to be in the right spot. BYU wins this football game. Utah only lost 2 games all year, and BYU beat them. And the BYU defense is, from what I've seen, they're lined up in the right spots often. And Beck does a good job fooling people. So that play is defended. Here's empty. I don't like this. This is one time they kind of get him outflanked. Dude, who's going to get the ball for which of our receivers are going to be the jet sweep guy?
Well,
who's this guy? Do we have a couple of them?
Shannon Goodwin's out there, Bell, and Salisi Moa might be one.
Might be the young guy. Anyway, they get the BYU defense. I question how they're defending this. You know,
well, it looks like they got caught a little flat-footed on this.
Yeah, they get angles here. They get this guy, and I'm not sure how he's coaching that edge player there.
Yeah, he had that edge player splitting the difference between the end man and the line of scrimmage and the slot.
They have to honor the quarterback there, dude. That's probably, again, here's the double. I think this is the double. Is this the double A gap? 1 techniques. Yeah, 2-1 techniques.
But I see 18 out here on the left edge of the viewing screen right here. He's splitting the difference between the end and the slot. And I mean, I get you got to watch for the run, but now right here with this motion, see how the linebacker's sliding, but that overhang player didn't slide. Kind of gets.
Well, the question I had is how, that I know as how are you coaching this guy?
Yeah.
That's what I'm questioning. It's like, okay, I'm a
with the 2 guys there.
I'm a C gap player on the snap of the ball. I'm a C gap player right now. This is my gap. It looks like, and they don't block me. Now I'm reading this thing, and he doesn't. I think they feel that these guys are pulling, but you still have to honor the quarterback run here. That's probably
17. The other linebacker, 17 there. He falls for those pulls. Yeah. That's the design of the play, man.
Dude. The moral of the story is too that offensive scheme gives you a lot of problems.
Yeah, man, makes
There's
you.
There's a lot of BS there, man. So
yep.
I think that was the last play I had. So anyway, dude, that was all I had for today. Basketball team goes to Iowa tomorrow. We ain't sharing nothing. We got a banner going up. We got football
that
starting.
Bottle's not open, by the way, for you people that think I got an empty bottle here. That's a full bottle.
All right, brother. We'll come over there for the natty. I'm gonna come to your crib for the natty. But basketball team is in great shape. Football starts in 13 days. I'm looking forward to getting to practice and seeing things. But we're fired up. Recruiting is rolling. Everything Michigan is good. That's my final comment. Over and out. Go Blue.
Big Ten champions, baby. Go Blue.